Hey YouTube, how are you today? I hope all is well. Good afternoon. We are back today with another live, and today is a little bit of a different live because you guys have the pleasure of seeing my avatar today because I want to share my screen. I have some great information to share with you. So I wanted you to kind of, just focus on the information that I share on the screen. I hope you all are doing well. I'm going to wait a few seconds to allow some people to come in. But as you can tell by the title, we are talking about how to spruce up our resumes. Yes. So I've had a few people lately contact me. With wanting to know basically how to get through that first level of trying to land a job. And of course, that first step and that first level is actually making sure that your resume is on point. Now, through the years, um, things that should or shouldn't go on your resume, have changed, right? And sometimes you can kind of decipher, whether you should put something on your resume or not. But sometimes people are not sure because maybe you've been in the job market or you've been on a certain job for a long time, and you've only had a couple of jobs in your professional life or your career, and now you've just decided that you want to do something different. So you're really not sure what to add on the resume, what they may be looking for, what they're not looking for. So I thought that it'd be great to kind of give a little bit of a refresher for those people so that they can get on the right track. I did add all of my contact information here on this first screen if you need a consultation regarding career strategy. If you would like a resume critique, I also offer that. So feel free to contact me if you need to. So we're going to go ahead and get started. I'll sometimes probably pause it because I have my coffee here. I hadn't had my coffee. I love coffee, y'all. But I only drink like 1 cup a day. I'm not one of those coffee drinkers who drinks like 5 or 6 cups a day. Like I can't do it. But sometimes I will say if I feel like a little bit, like if I have a lot to do during the day, or something like that, or I have a lot of tasks to get through, I like to drink coffee because it comforts me. It's comfort for me. It's not to like wake me up or anything like that. So yeah, so I have my coffee because I have a lot to do. So yeah, so let's go ahead and get started. So on this first slide, I just have here how to contact me. I have a website. You can contact me by email. And this may not be for you, but it could be for someone else. Anyone that's entering the job market, anyone that is just finishing college, again, anyone who has been in their particular role for a long time, and they're looking to do something different or they're wanting to apply for new jobs. I always tell people that even if you feel like you're in the role that you want to be in, you're at the company that you want to be at, you never know what's going to happen. So you want to make sure that you keep your options open. It's not going to hurt if you apply to different companies, right? Because no one, it's kind of like I look at it, my perspective of it is being like in a great situation because even though like that you're comfortable where you are, you like your job, things like that, right? But anything can happen with companies at any time. So even though you're in that position now and you feel good about it, you feel good about the company, this gives you practice. This gives you an idea of what other companies are looking for, right? It gives you a chance to kind of get yourself out there and learn a little bit about what's happening now in the job market, what companies, again, are looking for, and if your current resume that you have would get any hits. And if you've applied to a lot of different jobs and you're not getting that first call to say, hey, let's schedule an interview, then it might be time for you to review your resume, see if you need to add something, take something, out or something like that. And, a great time to get a resume critique. So let me get to the next slide. I hope you guys are doing well today. It is Monday. Mondays are usually always a little bit busy, a little bit hectic for most people. So I hope your day is going well. So I have like a mock resume here. Of course, I don't have anyone's name or anything like that, but this is like your standard resume, right? I'm going to go through like a standard resume, a mock resume. I will give you a little bit of an example of one, and then I'm going to give some helpful tips to include on your resume and what maybe you should keep out. So this one here is just a mock resume. You want to make sure, of course, everyone knows, put your name. Now on the side here where it has your good morning, Pastel. How are you? It's morning where you are. It's afternoon where I am. But it's still like where I am, it's like a little bit gloomy outside. So it feels like one of those, like like a sluggish morning where you want to feel like you want to take a nap because the weather is kind of like that, right? But yes, happy Monday. So here let me make my screen larger. All right. So on the side here where you see putting your address. Now this could be tricky only nowadays because you can put your address there if you want. All of this is really under your discretion, right? But sometimes, say for example, if you are applying specifically for remote jobs in a certain state, but you live in a different state, I wouldn't recommend putting your specific address there because that it depends on who's reading those resumes, right? And you never know who it is. They could be looking specifically for someone who's in that area. So if they see that you live in a different state, they're not even going to look at the rest of the information. They're going to throw their resume to the side because they're like, oh, well, they don't even live in this state. And that is may only be because they're looking at that only because maybe in that particular job, you have to come to the office a couple of days a week, even though it might be remote work or something like that, right? So I always just recommend it's okay to put your name, put maybe the city that you live in, phone number, or it's okay to leave the city out and just make sure you have your name, your phone number, and your email address. Because I feel like, in my opinion, if I leave all of that out and they call me for an interview and they really want to know, what city I live in or whatever, they're going to ask me. But then it also gives me a chance to kind of get them around that question. Like, even though they live in this city, they have the skills, right? They were articulate with their answers. They answer every question. We really like their, how they present themselves, their professional presentation. And so they will overlook that, right? So that's why I say just leave it out. Don't even give anybody a chance to throw your resume to the side. And let me see here. Hold on 1 second. Oh, 11:30, yeah. So it looks like if I make my screen larger, I can't see the comments. That sucks, but that's okay. We'll keep going. So now on the left-hand side, we have the experience. And if you all have any questions, please put them in the chat. I'm going to just leave my screen this way so I can see them. But on the left-hand side, we have the experience. So you want to make sure, of course, you put the company name. Sometimes some people put the location. That's fine. I think, that's okay. And make sure that you put the job title. Now, I'll go over this a little bit in the helpful tips, but if you are self-employed, maybe not so much an entrepreneur, right? Because usually if you're an entrepreneur, in my opinion, you own several businesses. If you're self-employed, you just, work for yourself. You're just kind of doing one thing. You just don't work for anyone else, but you're not necessarily an entrepreneur. So if you're self-employed, I wouldn't put that. I wouldn't put that you're CEO of a company or anything like that. You just put what company you work for in the job, your job title. If you're CEO, kind of come to terms with a job title that's specific to the industry that you're self-employed in, whether that be logistics. It can be, for example, if it's mental health or something like that, it could be therapist or counselor or, I don't know, mentor, whatever it might be, put that there. And then you want to make sure that you put the month of the start date that you started that particular job title. And if you're currently, still doing that, of course, you're going to put present, or you're going to put the month and the year that you moved on from that job. So if you're a person that hasn't had many jobs, but you have volunteer experience, you have internship experience, maybe an apprenticeship, those type of things, a lot of people leave those out of their resume, and they say, oh, well, I've only, had one job. Okay, well, add your volunteer experience on there, because those particular circumstances allowed you to gain so many skills that can be used on in a particular, company, or for a job title that's, paid. So just make sure that you're putting all of that there. On down to your education, I encourage you to put your degree. And you don't necessarily have to put the school name. I don't think it really matters that much. Sometimes, though, I've heard people say that they've gotten a job based on the school that they went to, and usually it may be, a big school, a school that's well known for like sports and stuff like that. And so once you get into the interview and you have those conversations with the interviewer, you'll find that they went to the same school. And so you kind of build your conversation around that. So it depends. It's up to you to put that there, but definitely make sure that you put your degree. Now, as far as when you earn your degree, now this is tricky as well, because there are certain things in the job market that interviewers, managers, companies, and not saying that it's right, but it happens, right? That they will overlook someone's resume based on their assumptions of their age, of their gender, of their race, right? So it depends on, I would say, what job you're applying to, and probably more specifically, um what area, as far as what state that the job is in, of whether, I would say, what to put, what year you earned your degree. Because some people assume, oh, well, if it's this year, then they're a little bit older, or things like that. So you don't want to get X'd out for that either. Remember, your resume is kind of like helping you open that door, right? And opening that gate to you kind of getting the opportunity to speak to someone. Because this is, a lot of times, some people, their resume may not be, the greatest resume, but once you speak to them, it's like, oh, this is a winner. Like, we definitely want this person on our team. So you want to get the opportunity, get to the point where you're able to speak for yourself and kind of sell yourself, right, to someone by speaking to them, not just by looking at you on paper, right? So that is under your discretion as well, if you want to put the year that you earned your degree. But keep in mind, based on the state or city that the job is in, and based on the specific job title, to make that decision. Now, as far as particular projects, you can, if you are, for example, a project manager, or that is a significant part of the industry that you're in, you can make a separate section for that. But most times I encourage people to go ahead and add that under where it says the company location. It has the year under that. Go ahead and add your bullet points of what your responsibilities were for that particular job, and I will get to that in a minute. Now, on the side are qualifications and languages. Now, qualifications is nothing but really like a skill bar, but people are kind of getting away from the skill bars. So, under qualifications, I would add there, and I'm going to give you all an example in the next slide of what you want to make sure that if you're licensed, if you have any certifications in anything that will allow you to stand out, put yourself apart from other candidates in this area, I recommend you put that here. If you've had significant training, if you're a yellow belt, as far as decision making, things like that, you will make sure that you put that here. And then languages. Of course, that's going to give you a step up, especially if you're in certain cities, right? Where there may be, and it's okay to, of course, do a little bit of research in certain cities where there may be big populations of different cultures and different languages spoken, such as Miami, such as, different areas, maybe in California, New York, probably, just all over really. If you're fluent in different languages, make sure that you put that there because that would definitely give you a leg up. All right. The next slide. So this is a little bit of an example. It's not a whole resume that's kind of laid out here. So in the previous slide, when I talked about the summary of qualifications, right, you want to make sure that you're putting there what your abilities are, what you're experienced in, what you're really skilled in. And because you want to make sure that you point that out. And you want to ensure that what you're putting there is specific to the job that you are applying for. You don't want to put skills for a project manager. I don't know if you're trying to be, you know, it just depends, a teacher or something like that. Specifically, you want to look at that job description that you're applying for and make sure that your skills correlate with that and relate it, and make sure you put it there under those qualifications because that is the first thing that they're going to look at. And basically, the qualifications are your skills, what you're skilled in, right? So they're looking at that first to see, okay, I don't really care about this education. I don't really care about, the previous jobs or how many jobs they had. I want to know if this person is skilled enough to do this job. And that's why I always say that it's important to know what skills you have, not just the skills that you have learned on your current job, but overall, maybe your current job doesn't require you to make quick decisions, but maybe in a previous role you had to do that. Or maybe in a volunteer situation, you're doing that. Maybe you are a leader or director of over something specific at your church, for example, and you have to make quick decisions, right? So you want to make sure you're putting all of your skills there, not just the skills that you need on your current job. So that's very important. Your professional experience, this is an example of how, a different way of how you can kind of lay that out as far as the job title, and your employer and the time that you work there. Also, on this section is very, very important that when you put those bullet points of what your responsibilities are, it needs to be a key word attached to it, right? Because you don't just want to say enrolled students, right? What did you improve in that particular role? How did you help motivate anyone in that particular role? Maybe you mentored a colleague, maybe you weren't in a managerial role, but you assisted them in mentoring, you assisted them in inspiring the team based on different changes that were going to occur. Did you volunteer to do anything while you were in that role? Maybe you were the person who volunteered to stay late 2 times a week to ensure that productivity was met. Maybe you volunteered to go into do someone else's work after your work was done, right? So any volunteer um, tasks that you may have done, you want to make sure you put that there as well. Is there anything that you implemented? I know there was a particular client that I had that noticed a challenge in her particular team and said, morale is always down, and no one is really, work is not fun anymore. We used to come and we used to have fun and have breakfast together. That doesn't happen anymore. Well, okay, why is the morale down, right? Well, we have a different manager now. There are different expectations. Well, sometimes you have to be that self-starter. That's another thing, right? To say, okay, the morale is down. All of us have agreed that we want to improve the morale. So let me implement a program or something like that to try to improve the morale on my team. And it can go over into different departments, right? So have you implemented anything like that? Doesn't have to be about morale, but anything, right? Have you implemented any program activity, to boost the morale, boost the productivity, right? Because the end goal, as we all know, for companies is to make money. So, have you implemented any project, like I said, program activity to improve productivity, to decrease the amount of money being lost for the company? Those are things that you want to put there. What problems have you resolved? That is a big one, right? And you may not have all of these bullet points in that particular title, but these are just examples of things that you can kind of think about what you have done in a particular role or at a particular company. Because in certain companies, you may have had several roles, right? So what have you resolved? What problems, came about and you said, I have a solution for that? Or what solutions have you offered? Sometimes in certain departments, they may not have the budget to take on what you're implementing or what you are, proposing. But nevertheless, you made a proposal, right? You went to your manager and said, hey, this is the evidence I have that this is going to work. We have evidence that it's worked before, or is this something that we just want to pilot? Right? Nevertheless, you came to your manager to say, hey, I think this is something I came up with this idea and I wanted to present it to you. So you can put that there as well. And again, anything that you have maybe created. Now, keep in mind that if you have done any of these things, just like in the interview, in one of my previous videos, I talk about the STAR method, right? What situation you had, what were you tasked with, what action you took, and what were the results. So in your interview, you're going to talk about that as well, but specifically in your resume, you need to put what your results were when you improved something, when you motivated someone, when if you volunteered, if you implemented something. And when I say results, I mean statistical results, right? You want to make sure you're putting, okay, I volunteered to work on 5 of my colleagues, productivity for the day. I implemented 3 programs within a 2-year span. 90% of our productivity improved by 90% after I did dot, dot, dot. So you want to make sure you're giving them numerical information, because it gives someone a good picture and a holistic view of what you're able to do. You're not just saying this is what it resulted in, but this is the proof, right? This is the numerical proof that, this is specifically what you did. That will definitely, put you apart from someone else, because most people don't really put that on their resume, right? Or, they may not really know. They just know, that they helped, or that they volunteered, or that you know, um, they were the ones who kind of assisted their manager, but they don't really know what the results are. So you say, Ashley, okay, well, how do I get the results? Like, I did all of this stuff, but how do I even figure out that it's 90%? Or, five of these people said that I did a great job, or whatever. Start asking for feedback, especially if you know that you are going to be looking for another job, right? Especially if you know your performance review is coming up. These are things, you need to ask for feedback so that you can put this in your write up for your performance review, right? And also, it'll help you with your resume. So, ask for feedback often from your manager. Ask for feedback from your colleagues. If you do an in service and you present information to them on a challenge that's happening, and you're kind of trying to be proactive in what you all can do better as a team and things of that nature. After that in service, ask a few of your colleagues, hey, how do you think I did? What could I have done better? So you're able to get kind of constructive criticism on what you're doing, or get a critique, and you'll get a better idea of how many people really enjoyed it, or of how many people say, after your in service, I really found my productivity, I was able to complete 4 additional tasks for the day. So all of that really matters on your resume, and specifically too in your interview. So make sure that you're including numerical data in your resume so that people can really see, how you've been, instrumental in doing all of these things. All right, next slide. So on this last slide, I have here helpful tips. So on these tips, right? This is all, under your discretion. If you want to add it, if you don't, you'll get a better idea if your resume is working, if you're applying for jobs and you're getting hits, right? You're getting hits. People are calling you saying, hey, we want to schedule an interview, right? Then that your resume is doing pretty good based on the job that you're applying to, right? And then when you get to the point where you are getting to the interview process and you need a mock interview, you just want to freshen up your skills on behavioral interviews. Most interviews, probably about 95% of interviews, are behavioral in nature. So those questions of what would you do? Has there ever been a time, right? There is no really yes or no questions in those interviews. So if you need a refresher, or you need assistance, or just want to practice, I offer that as well. So contact me if you need to. But these are helpful tips for the resume. So I mentioned before, don't say you're a CEO or owner, be an employee. That the CEO, that may steer, some people off and say, what, we're really not, get them wondering more, asking more questions. So just put there that you're an employee. Don't list skills like good listener or attention to detail. Again, you want to make sure you have those keywords: experienced in, skilled in, you assisted, implemented. Those power words need to be there. List skills that are relevant to the job, right? So it's very important that you're looking at the specific job description that you are applying for. You're going to look at everything. And even if there may be a few things on that job description that you say, what, I'm not really skilled in that. I've never really dealt with, analytics or something like that. Don't be afraid to apply, because what is the worst they can say? No. Okay, and then you move on to the next one, right? So don't be discouraged. Apply anyway, because remember, there may be a lot of people thinking that and they don't apply, or there may be a lot of people who are saying, you know what, I'm just going to apply anyway. And they may not have any of those skills, and then they're going to get the job because other people didn't apply because they didn't have just one skill. So apply anyway. The worst they can say is no, and it'll just give you a better idea of what you need to do the next time or what you may need to work on, right? So, um, right, only put your GPA if it's required. So that's up to you. If it's an internship or something like that, I encourage you maybe to put, if you're just out of college or something, you can put your GPA there. But otherwise, it's really not going to matter. Honestly, most of the jobs that I've had while working in a corporate environment, they really never really ask. It probably depends on the company, I guess, but they never really ask for your for a copy of your degree. Um, you know, the, you may get into a conversation of what school you went to and things like that, or if they ask you, tell me a little bit about yourself, you may get into that, but no one really asks for that. So again, if you're coming out of an internship, or if you're just graduating, maybe it would matter. And it probably depends on the industry, right? If you are a medical doctor or a specific specialty or something like that, you may want to put that. But otherwise, it's not a big deal. So the about me section, I don't even really recommend putting that, because again, once you get to the interview, you can give them more information about yourself if they ask you that question, right? Tell me about yourself. Some interviewers just get straight to the point because they don't have time. They don't have time to be, hearing about how many kids you have and, uh, what you like to do for fun and all of that stuff, right? Sometimes they get straight to the point. But you have some interviewers who really enjoy the process, and they may ask, tell me a little bit about you. And most times they're really meaning tell me about your professional experience, right? Number seven, companies likely they don't care again about your hobbies or your interests. They don't care. Now, I have heard that some people, not a lot, I'm not going to say a lot, but some people have gotten jobs based on their hobbies, right? And that's just, they just looked up. They, were in an interview and the interviewer says, I really like golf. And they say, I like golf too. I just went to this particular golf course that they've always wanted to go to, and they start getting to that conversation. The next thing you know, 45 minutes have gone by, and they get out to the car and they get the call, hey, we want to offer you the job, right? So it just depends on the interviewer, but keep that off of your resume. Nobody really cares about that. Um, I talked about this also in the previous slide, not to put the college start dates. You can again put the date you're expected to, graduate or earn your degree, but under your discretion based on the job title, based on the area that the job is in, right? Number nine, change long internship titles to employee, definitely, because, at that point, it's basically like a work situation. And if you are in an internship for longer than probably a year and a half, I would encourage you to have the conversation with them about, taking you on either full time or part time, especially if you really enjoy that particular internship. Again, the only thing they can say is no. At least you kind of tried. And again, especially if you enjoy it. But if you're on it for longer than that, unless there's a specific reason why, maybe your program that you're in requires it, if you're in like a graduate program or something like that, then I would definitely say to have that conversation with them, because that's a long time. Number 10, change the job title within region to make yourself look good. I always tell people, when you look at that specific job description, you want to tailor your resume to that particular job, right? Because that's the only way that they're going to see that the skills that you have reflect what's in that job description. And usually most people are applying to jobs in the same industry, right? But if you're just, and you should be, because you should have, when you're job seeking, you should have an idea of what industry you want to work in, what particular job you're seeking and things like that. But some people, they just, randomly apply to jobs because they just need a job, you know and it may sound crazy, it may sound daunting, but you don't want to do that, because you're going to end up, whatever job you get, you're going to end up being unhappy because you're just applying to whatever job you can get, right? If you all want any particular, additional tips on that, let me know. But you want to make sure, because it doesn't matter how long it takes, right? You want to make sure you're applying for jobs and you are seeking jobs that you really, really want. So that way you're not changing up your resume every other day because you're applying to all these different jobs. But if it's in the same industry, you shouldn't have to change things up so much. Number 11, don't include photos of yourself, especially in the United States. You don't want them to have any reason to put that resume to the side, because they will. If they see your picture, it just depends on who's looking at the resumes, right? But you don't want to give them a reason to put yours to the side. And that would clearly be giving them one where they're not going to read any of that information. And number 12, apply if you think you can learn to do it or do it, right? Again, it's just a wish list for them. If you look at that job description and you only have one of those skills, apply anyway if you really want that job, because most people, I don't care who it is, doctors, project managers, nurses, everyone learns on the job. Now, of course, there are basic things you need to know, right? And but usually you have a training period, you have a mentor when you first start, you have someone that you can ask questions to if you get stuck, things like that, right? Everyone has to start somewhere. So if you feel like, this is something I can learn to do, this is something I can really, really do, even though I don't have that much experience in it, apply anyway. The worst thing they could say is no, and you just move on to the next, right? So, those are the helpful tips that I have about resumes. This live was very succinct, I think. What do you guys think? I wanted to make sure that I got straight to the point, and I hope this was very helpful to you. These are the things that I, am passionate about, mental health and, growing your career, as well as, managing your mental health in the workplace. So if you all need any assistance with that, please don't hesitate to reach out to me, whether that be for yourself or someone else. I hope this live was helpful for you. For all of my new subscribers, thank you so much. I really appreciate you. And if you haven't subscribed yet and feel so inclined to, please hit that subscribe button and like the live. I hope you all have a great rest of your afternoon, and I will see you on the next one. Bye.